Mr. Speaker, picture the scene. Parnell resident and occasional visitor to the Helensville electorate, John Key, sits down in a room in his modest 15-bedroom electorate office to get an update on events in the area. He's surrounded by his closest advisors. He can't remember any of their names and he doesn't know who they are. One of them looks like the Fletcher boy from high school, but he can't be sure. He makes a note for Wayne Eagleson. Ask Saunders Unsworth, who are my advisors? He seeks to get a briefing on what's been happening in the happy hamlet of Hansville. Any major developments? A hush comes over the crowd and a quiet voice whispers, "A German has moved into the mansion." John Key is shocked. This is a development of considerable note. A German in the mansion? First things first, John Key says. Whatever you do, in no circumstances must anyone tell me the German's name. It's a matter of national security. It's a matter of national security, and I'm struggling to remember all of the things I've got to pretend to forget. So don't tell me his name. We then arrive the figure of Stephen Joyce, or as we shall know him from now on, Corporal Jones. Corporal Jones appears, yelling, "Don't panic! Don't panic! The Germans are coming! Don't panic!" John Key sits calmly and says, "I normally get my list of overseas migrants. Where are the Australians? Where are the Indians? Where are the Chinese? I'm only being told about the Germans." Mr. Speaker, in John Key's Helensville, it's Dad's army all over the place. Well, on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, we say, who are you kidding, Mr. Key? He tells us he cannot remember. He tells us he cannot remember the arrival in his electorate of a very large multi-millionaire German. Multi-billionaire German arriving in his electorate. He says he can't remember the man who put on the biggest fireworks display in New Zealand's history, but he doesn't know because he's surrounded by his dad's army of advisors. John Key is surrounded by Stephen Joyce as Corporal Jones. He doesn't like a muffin, as he would say. He doesn't like a muffin. That's what Corporal Jones would tell the House, Mr. Speaker. But you see, Mr. Speaker, what John Key tells us is that he has a mandate to govern. Well, Mr. Speaker, it's certainly true John Key's been on a hell of a lot of mandates. He went on a mandate with John Banks and he got a seat in Parliament. He went on a mandate with Ian Fletcher and he got a job running the GCSB. He went on a mandate with the Sky City Chief Executives and they got a whole law for them. Mandates are what John Key does, but someone else always wins out of them other than New Zealanders, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, we know what Grant Robertson was doing last night. In between his desperate denials on Twitter, he was watching the Jones channel. That was his inspiration for this speech today. It was his Jones channel, Mr. Speaker. The only thing is he should have been Sergeant Schultz today because he's the one running around going, "I see nothing, I know nothing, there's nobody challenging the leadership of the Labour Party, I know nothing at all." When the reality is there is a Jones channel, and the Jones channel is the channel by which the leadership challenge of the Labour Party is being conducted, Mr. Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, it has been a fascinating 24 hours in the identity politics of the Labour Party, Mr. Speaker. First we had the man ban, then we had the ban of the man ban, and then very nearly we had the demise of the man who banned the man ban, Mr. Speaker. And that's where it nearly got to last night, and it's where it's heading again today, Mr. Speaker. Despite the denials, the many, many denials, the reality is there are 3 of the men who were going to be banned in the man ban who've decided to take their opportunity and step forward, Mr. Speaker. And I say stand up, those men who are against the man ban: Shane Jones, Andrew Little and Clayton Cosgrove, the red meat men of the Labour Party, Mr. Speaker, who are, as we speak, either circulating or not circulating or denying they're circulating a letter of no confidence in the leadership of the Labour Party, Mr. Speaker. And that's what's going on right now. The red meat division have decided this is their chance to get their own back. But, Mr Speaker, they didn't quite succeed. All they succeeded in yesterday was a massive Twitter explosion last night. There was a massive explosion on Twitter where nearly all the Labor Party caucus, except Shane Jones and except Andrew Little and except Clayton Cosgrove and except a bunch of other Labor Party members, failed to... We're on Twitter last night going, no, there's nothing happening here. And Annie King was even on the radio this morning saying, no, there's nothing happening here. Well, you know what you say about denials? Denials is a river in Egypt, and the reality of the situation is the Labor Party is heading to a leadership revolt, Mr Speaker.